Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahawashi, Bahasham, Barakahakudash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and in this video, I'll be profiling an article from the economiccollapseblog.com titled, "Food Banks all over the U.S. are overwhelmed as the cost of living pushes more people into poverty." And as we'll see in this article, the situation for the average American out here just continues to get worse and worse. Inflation, which will lead to hyperinflation, is making food and gas damn near unaffordable for a lot of people out here, which in turn is seeing food banks all across the country get overwhelmed by such an influx of new people. And at the same time, their food donations are becoming scarcer and their store shelves are getting emptier and emptier. And then also, the store shelves at these grocery stores are starting to get empty again, like during the C-19, 2020, and 2021 lockdowns. And that's only going to get exacerbated by these continuing supply chain disruptions, which is being orchestrated by the elites to manufacture artificial famine and get you people desperate out here to accept any solution they come with, which is mainly going to be accepting the charagma, the MARKOFTHEBEAST in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18, which is the RFID/NFC MICROCHIPIMPLANT, and then also adverse weather events and high diesel prices are keeping farmers back from planting a sufficient amount of crops. And the situation is just going to continue to deteriorate to where people are going to become more desperate and just start stealing stuff from these different stores. And then when there becomes less stuff to steal, they're going to start breaking into each other's houses and killing each other to take whatever they have left. We're coming into the times of Jacob's trouble, where Yahweh Bahasham Yahawashi is about to judge you people for all the wickedness you've been committing. The food lines are back, and they are starting to get really long, but this wasn't supposed to happen. We are being told that unemployment is very low, even though that is not actually true, and we are also being told that the inflation rate is still only in the single digits, and of course, that is not exactly true either. But hey, a recession, really a depression, and economic collapses are coming to these countries all across the planet. It's getting to the point where even these mainstream media pundits are having to admit that very hard economic times are ahead. All over the country, middle-class Americans are watching their lifestyles be absolutely eviscerated by the cost of living crisis, and an increasing number of them are turning to food banks. So we are seeing very long lines at food banks in major cities from coast to coast. And we are also seeing very long lines in rural locations such as Northwest Montana. Across the Flathead, food pantries are facing emptier shelves and scarcer donations as demand for their services grow. Our numbers have definitely been increasing. Ann Bomer, co-manager of the Columbia Falls Food Bank, said, "There's been an influx of people and a shortage of supplies." The Columbia Falls Food Bank is now overwhelmed by the level of demand that it is experiencing, and unfortunately, the same thing can be said for countless other food banks across the nation. The problem of overwhelmed and understocked food banks is not unique to Northwest Montana. Food and gas prices are skyrocketing across the country, forcing Americans to pinch pennies and limit purchases. As of last month, grocery store prices were up 10.8% from the same time last year. While supermarket tabs are getting higher, lines at food pantries are getting longer as Americans struggle to put meals on the table. And like I just said, it's going to get to the point to where people are going to get desperate and start stealing things from these different stores. People are already doing it, and the situation out here isn't as bad as it's going to get. And I've done plenty of articles in the past showing that places like Walmart are having to put metal cages on steaks with sensors on it because people are trying to steal those steaks, and people are just flash mobbing a lot of different locations and just taking whatever they can. You should never, ever look down on those that need to use local food banks, because the truth is that with a few bad breaks, you could soon need to use one yourself. And that's going to become the situation for more and more Americans out here as the situation out here continues to decline. Prior to this new economic crisis, a woman in the Phoenix area named Thomasina John had never visited a food bank before, but now her local food bank is an indispensable lifeline for her family. Thomasina John was among hundreds of families lined up in several lanes of cars that went around the block one recent day outside St. Mary's Food Bank in Phoenix. John said her family had never visited a food bank before because her husband had easily supported her and their 4 children with his construction work. But it's really impossible to get by now without some help, said John, who traveled with a neighbor to share gas costs as they idle under a scorching desert sun. The prices are too high. Sadly, economic conditions have forced dozens of food banks all over the country to either shut down or reduce services at a time when they are needed more than ever. Here are just a few examples. Elsewhere in the United States, rising prices have forced dozens of charitable nonprofits to shutter, temporarily close, or reduce services. This spring, Nashville's Little Pantry closed down after 5 years of operation. New Jersey's Angels Community Outreach announced a temporary closure due to supply shortages, and Utah's Thule Food Pantry canceled an important food drive because of staffing and logistical issues. Among the food banks that remain open, some are putting limitations on how often people can visit and how much food they can get. If our food banks are under this much financial stress already, what will things be like a year from now? That is something to think about, and best believe it's going to get worse from here on out. This is 2 Esdras chapter 6 in the Apocrypha. I'm going to read verse 22. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. These different croplands out here not being planted with crops anymore. And like I said at the beginning of the video, adverse weather events and high diesel prices are keeping farmers from planting a sufficient amount of crops. The full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. As we read in that article, a lot of these food banks across the country are having scarcer donations made to them, which in turn is making their store shelves emptier. Suddenly shall the storehouses be found empty. And also, these different grocery store shelves are starting to become empty again, like during the 2020 and 2021 lockdowns. And the trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man heareth, they shall be suddenly afraid. At that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies. And what are one of the things that could cause friends to fight one against another like enemies? Food shortages, famines. You're about to see the animalistic, savage nature of a lot of people out here when their stomachs start touching their backs and they start to see their loved ones starve. This is 2 Esdras chapter 15, verse 19. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword. And the modern day sword, especially in the United States of America, is the gun, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, food shortages, famines, the full storehouses, these food banks and grocery stores suddenly being found empty, and for great tribulation. Across the Atlantic, they are dealing with similar problems in the UK. Food banks are running out of supplies, and the full storehouses suddenly being found empty amid an overwhelming surge of new people falling into hardship during the cost of living crisis, with some charities forced to turn away families in need. As I discussed yesterday, an unprecedented energy crisis has much of Europe on the verge of full-blown economic collapse. Energy bills have soared to unprecedented heights, and the cost of living has become extremely oppressive. As a result, many in the UK are now skipping meals on a regular basis. 4 out of 10 universal credit claimants have admitted to missing meals over the summer in order to keep up with rising costs, research shows. Some 41% of people on benefits admitted to skipping meals over the past 3 months, with a further 38% claiming to have had just one meal or gone a whole day without eating because they couldn't afford to buy enough food. The research was constructed by the Trussell Trust, Britain's biggest food bank charity, which surveyed 1,847 UK adults claiming benefits between August 10th and the 31st via YouGov. And honestly, how long do you think people are going to continue skipping meals? Like that old saying goes, people are about 2 to 3 meals away from revolting. Hey, this is going to cause friends to fight one against another like enemies, and a man to have no pity upon his neighbor and spoil his house and his goods due to the lack of bread, and for great tribulation. Unfortunately, this is just the beginning. We are being repeatedly warned that the food shortages in Europe will soon get far worse. But this nightmare won't just be isolated to Europe. There will be widespread food shortages all over the globe in 2023, and the head of the UN says that it is likely that there will be multiple famines next year. So why aren't more people getting prepared? Top government officials all over the planet are openly telling us that there will be food shortages in 2023, but the vast majority of people out there seem to assume that everything is going to work out just fine somehow. Hey, you just wait and see as these famines really hit. And it was prophesied that famines would take place. That's it with this article. Now I'm going to go to Matthew chapter 24, verse 7. And these are the end time signs that Yahushai Hamashiach, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus Christ, told his disciples to look for, to know that they were living in the last days. But really, we're in the last seconds of the last days before Yahushai's second coming, the end of this current age of the rulership of the heathen nations, chiefly under the biblical Edomites or these so-called white people, and the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven under the true children of Israel, who are known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And if you have that spiritual eye salve, you can clearly see that these end-time signs and prophecies are either in the process of taking place or taking place as we speak. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines. In 2023, and the head of the UN says that it is likely that there will be multiple famines next year. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. We're just in the beginning stages of Jacob's trouble right now. It's about to get a hell of a lot worse from here on out. Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai is about to judge and take a lot of people off this planet through these famines and pestilences and wars and calamities. But to you sincere Akim and Akwat out here, hey, don't worry about these famines that are coming. As long as we keep doing what we need to do to stay in the good graces of our power, Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, he's going to protect us in that day. As it says in Isaiah chapter 65, verse 13, therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, my servants shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. The wicked of our people who were hard-headed and refused to return back to their power, Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. Behold, my servants shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty. Behold, my servants shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed. Behold, my servants shall sing for joy of heart, but ye shall cry for sorrow of heart, and shall howl for vexation of spirit. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong, as we can clearly see We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.